with this, I am going to start this session now. Very excited about this because we are basically talking about a career that is extremely sought after. Everybody wants to become one. Not everybody can become one because sometimes your ACAS, your history, all these sorts of things come in the way. But everybody joins. A lot of people join B schools wanting to become consultants, and that's what today's session is about. This is also the beginning of a really long consulting festival of sorts that we are doing here at Inside IIM. This Yobo Live is just the beginning of that. There are plenty of things that are lined up. We've got some very exciting things. We've got senior partners, directors, principals. We've got young Turks, all kinds of people going to help you in the coming few weeks around a variety of things. Just understanding what a career in consulting is like, and what kind of people are ideal for going into consulting, and how do you prepare, and how do you do the mental makeup to become a consultant? What's a typical day like for a consultant? All these questions are going to be answered. We are also going to help you prepare for some of these consulting interviews. They are the consulting interview process is probably as famous as the consulting firms themselves, because it involves case interviews and people prepare for hours, and seniors and juniors become friends, and people fall in love in the journey of preparing for case interviews on campus. Uh, Lots of things happen around consulting, so it's a very exciting evening today. Very excited to be here. I will request Sonangi Shankar to please switch off her camera if she's going to be on Zoom. Requesting again all the Zoom guys to move to YouTube quickly. The link is in the chat. With that, I'm going to come to the Sonangi. Can you please switch off your camera, please? With that, I'm going to come to the first question, and this question is for all of you guys. We've got some very interesting people here today. Before introducing my co-host, I'm going to introduce the people, the consultants who are going to be loaded very soon or are already loaded. The first person I want to introduce is Pratik Ranjan. He's a dear friend of Inside IIM. He's been associated with Inside IIM at different stages in his life. He's now a consultant at BCG. Pratik Ranjan, welcome to Yobo Live. The next person I want to introduce is Rudra Nikam. I met her last year when she outside the gate of Mica. She was trying to get in, and you wouldn't imagine that she's an IIM A girl on her way to becoming a consultant. She had a very different set of dreams back then. Rudra did her internship at Bain and cracked the PPO, and as did Soham, who's also joining us. Soham has also interned at Bain and cracked the PPO, so they are on their way to their dream companies. So we'll be speaking to them, and of course, as usual, I have my dear friend Oindrila with me, who up till last time was working at JioSavan, but this time she's an employee at TikTok, which is in itself a very interesting.
Don't create the controversy, coach. Don't be that person.
So Oindrila is an alumnus of BITS Pilani and ISB, and she's had an interesting career and she's working at TikTok, so she's going to be my co-host today. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'll keep talking about a lot of other things that we are going to be doing around Consulting Festival as we go along. But to begin with, because Pratik is the senior here, so to speak, so I'm going to come to Pratik first. Pratik, what's this obsession around consulting? Why does it fascinate so many people, batch after batch, generation after generation? What is so amazing about consulting?
I wanted to ask that question, Kunj, because I am the weirdo who did a consulting gig before her MBA and swore never to go back to it again. So I wanted to ask that question, but you took away that question from me. So yes, Pratik, over to you.
So I think to answer that question, we'll have to look into the genetics of MBA grads. Who are people who want to do MBA? Now these are typically people from undergrad colleges, people who really have this knack to conquer complexity, to go beyond the obvious. Now these are few 5-10% people who come to an MBA college. Now these same people always have that drive to keep doing different things. Now if I have to talk of two archetypes, people who work in government jobs are people who really look for complacency. One city, same set of people to work with, same set of things to do every day. versus a person who comes to an MBA, a person who does different courses, like a complete course in 3 months, right? And then moves to another one. An engineer doing economics versus finance and whatnot. Similarly, a consulting career is something that offers a lot of learning in very short time and never lets you get complacent. That's my 1 point answer, but to just keep it very short and add a few more points. Of course, the perks that consulting comes with respect to travel or the fat pay package or the peer group that you work with. So the people you work with will always keep challenging you. The best in class is the average in consulting firms. And that is what will always keep you running for excellence and running for more, pushing the envelope every day. Another very important point is about early exposure. So as a person working in industry, maybe after 5-6 years you can get to talk or at least meet your CEO. On contrary, as a consultant, the first SCM that you do, which would be probably 1 or 2 weeks after you join a consulting firm, would be a meeting where you present to a very senior person you would have read about in many news articles. So I think these are 4-5 important points, but the core crux being the FOMO and the genetics of MBA students to never settle in life, keep doing different things.
Right. So, you want to weigh in here? What do you feel about, what made you feel excited about consulting? What was your first run-in with consulting?
So I think for this, I need to tell about where I come from. So before joining IIM A, I was working with Morgan Stanley for 3 years, and those 3 years were pretty fruitful. I got straight promotions. I went on to lead a team across New York and Bangalore. And at the end of it all, I realized that yes, I was leading a team, but was I taking the shots? Was I taking the calls that are strategic in nature? No. So what I was doing was I was executing somebody else's plan, which is where I believe the need for an MBA came about, and more so for consulting, because in consulting, effectively what you're doing is you're trying to come up with a strategy, and in many cases going on to implement that. So to be the thinker and being the brain behind the plan appealed to me far more than being the brawn which basically goes on to implement the plan. Now, don't get me wrong, both of them are equally important. But then again, for me, I think as Pratik pointed out, I think my genetics was such that I always prefer the strategic side, which is what pushed me into consulting and made me work towards it.
All right. Rudra, you want to weigh in here? What was your run-in with consulting? I know you had very different ideas when I met you a year ago about what you want to do. So what changed?
Yeah, I'll also give a bit background about myself. I've been into marketing from the time I got into commerce background. So I am a fresher and I was a marketing graduate, and I have done like 3 internships in marketing. And as you know, I was all this straight-minded that obviously this is my profile. I have to get in marketing, but IIM first year gave me a lot of perspective about what different fields were, what were the different skill sets that were required in different fields. And consulting then appealed to me very much because the different skill sets that were required there was something that I thought that I should try, right? So I knew for the fact that, internship experience is somewhere I can ask myself if consulting was really for me, because I didn't want to regret in future that because internship was a better opportunity for me to try on something that I've not done. So that's when consulting came into picture. And luckily it clicked. So it was good for me.
Right.
Guys, who is it ideal for? Like Pratik, you mentioned something around government jobs, and what I would, maybe you can call it complacency or call it risk averseness or whatever. But if we were to ask you guys, all 3 of you, what would be the ideal candidate for consulting, or who would be ideal for consulting? What would you guys say?
Mohammed, please switch off your mic, please. Mohammed, please switch off your mic.
Kunj, you can mute whoever is speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, go on,
So Rudra, do you wanna start?
Yeah, I am actually I was thinking, right? So for me, I mean, where I get this from is it's basically that you want to, there's one quality that I want every consultant to have, right? It's like my partner told me on my internship that, we are hiring from the best IITs and IIMs. We know you all are intelligent. We know you have the mindset to deal with problems and everything. But are you, and it takes a lot of you, right? It takes a lot of hours of you. It takes a lot of sacrifices that you have to do in your early 20s, right? And that's one quality. If you are persistent, and if you are a person who feels that they can dedicate a huge amount of time to their career, especially like a consulting, please go ahead. Apart from that, the skill set that you need is you have to be a people's person, right? You are knowledgeable. We know that you have to be a people's person, because at 2 a.m. at 2 a.m. at night, I was getting my supervisor's call, and you have to be as energetic then too. You can't be a person who's dropped in energy and who's can't balance their own self. So that's the second point according to me. Thirdly, I feel you have to be a great learner and an unlearner. Now, when I say this is because it's a new industry every day, right? Every time you go ahead, you have a new problem you're solving, and you have the toolkits and everything that the firm gives you, but you have to unlearn all the past like industry working. So what happened with me was I did my internships in marketing background. I've read marketing cases, so I had a very typical way of looking at a problem. But my supervisor told me the first day, you have to unlearn everything. This is not what consulting is. And then she told me that the first case that she did, nothing could be applied. Same though it was the same industry, FMCG, it didn't apply. So unlearning and learning again and again is a quality that you need, right? And I think you can add more to it. So please add more.
Yeah, I think on a very motivational level and on a very philosophical level, I would think that one more thing that a person needs to have, it's the desire to always try new things. Because if you are one person who is fixed to who has one singular passion, like I know a few friends of mine who are so into tech that they want to do tech throughout the year. But then again, there is another breed who wants to experiment, who wants to go ahead and try new things throughout. And I believe if you are one of them, consulting is the best place to be. And the second type of people, which also somewhat I fall into, would have been the second grade of people. And this is a very frank opinion of mine, is that if you don't know what to do and you're completely confused, then again, consulting is a very good finishing school. So I think I was reading an Harvard Business Review article somewhere which said that if you go to an MBA school, and then consulting first few years are nothing but a finishing school. So you effectively fine tune whatever you learned, put it into practice, venture into a multitude of industries, and it gives you and broadens your view a lot more than what any other profession would. So I think these two things appeal to me a lot, and actually I relate to them the most.
And yeah, let's not forget, if you want to earn money, right? That's a very big criteria here, guys. Honestly, we all are from the same boat. We all have come to this B school with one motive, right? We see ourselves in the next 5 years somewhere, and we have our own dreams and where we want to land up. Yes, consulting is one of the routes that pushes you to that dream bit faster than other. And I think Prateek will be better to answer this line of thought. But yes, if you want to earn money and you want to sit with the creme de la creme people of every company and, be a learner as well as a strategist at the same time, consulting is the place for you.
Wow, I love.
Look at the smile on Prateek's face when you say that.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Every word of what I've heard in the last couple of minutes, I completely echo them. And if I had to quickly summarize some of them, I would say the two things which I see as the biggest proposition for consulting, or a biggest, or who does it, really make the cut for consulting. I think somebody is not on mute, can go on mute. Yeah, would be two very basic things. Number one being your ability to ask the right questions and to conquer complexity. Because a lot of times you might not know what industry you're going to work with, what kind of people, what is the data required. But if you ask the right set of questions, and which is where, even while preparing case interviews, the only skill you need is the ability to ask right questions. So if you can ask the right questions, you are a perfect fit for consulting. Second, if you're someone who really wants to leapfrog, as you said, you really kind of stole my thoughts on that one. The biggest proposition for me was, when you start your career, the difference would be a couple of lakhs or even lesser, because all the companies end up paying the same in the beginning. But the first career jump that you get in an FMCG company is after 4 years, from an ASM to maybe a CCM. Uh, but uh, but in consulting, every 2 years is a guaranteed promotion. Either you're up or out, as people call it, like popularly. And therefore, in 4 years, you can actually take two promotions, which would mean your salary becoming more than double. So I think the gap becomes a gulf in just 4 years.
Yeah, I think I missed
The
one
gap
point.
becomes a gulf.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Rudra. Go
Yeah.
on.
So I think I missed a point when where Soham was talking about on the same lines, right? That wherever you, it's for you, it's a completing school too. But if you are at a position that you want to shift in your future and you don't know where you want to go, consulting is a very good way you can shift from from consulting to any other industry, or it's a very easy shift, and as compared to vice versa. So that's also one thing that you should look for.
Yeah, exit
Okay.
options. We have
Adding to
exit
that,
options, right?
Yeah,
Right.
you do. I mean,
you have the best exit options on this planet if you're in consulting.
Yeah. So a quick addition to that, a lot of people don't understand, and I'm not talking of people who've completed their B
I
school
think
journey.
your voice is not very clear. Can you hold the mic closer? Because your voice is a little.
So people who are just starting their B school journey, they usually mistake consulting as a separate domain, while consulting is actually a conglomeration of everything together. So people who love marketing, welcome to consulting. People who love HR or strategy or operations or e-commerce or digital or whatever, right? Consulting is everything. So if it's a marketer wanting to do consulting, you're welcome. You'll get to do marketing plus a lot of other things. So exit options, as people said, is exactly a very, very valid value proposition here.
All right, guys. Now I have a question for you. Say when you were at this stage, right? Most of the students who are joining here are batch of 2022 who are going to enter their B school, enter like not in a physical way anymore, but like in a virtual kind of a way, unlike you guys, but still enter a B school. And someone told you that you can meet, the partner of an MBB firm, okay, and spend 5 hours with you. That partner is going to spend 5 hours with you, and you are yet to decide whether you want to do consulting or not. Maybe you decided you want to do consulting, but you have no idea what it means. It just means a very fat pay packet and a great lifestyle, and everybody looks up to the people who make it to top consulting firms. So as a kid of a batch of 2022, what are some of the things that you would want to ask or want to know from someone if you had an access to a partner of an MBB firm who's worked there for 15, 20 years in that firm?
Yeah. Okay, so let me start with that. So the one thing which is different between consulting and industry is, in an industry you start as a specialist. Like, you're a person working in sales, you work for sales, and eventually you become a VP and you start doing HR, operations, and everything, right? So you start as a generalist, and you start as a specialist and you become a generalist. In consulting, it's just the reverse. You start as a generalist, you're doing multiple sectors, and then eventually you become a specialist. Like 6-7 years down the line, you choose one sector and pursue it actively. So my first question is, how do you decide that sector? Because every sector that I do, I find that very, very alluring. I find that the sector of my choice. So that is the first question. The second question, on a funnier side, would be, there's a huge repository of short terms that partners use. They'll say, I need you to peel the onion. I need a 30,000 feet view of that. Why don't you, get the wheel rolling? So there are so many, phrases they use, so many, like there's a very popular hashtag in consulting is hashtag please fix. So you send something to a partner and the only two words that come back is please fix. And you don't know what to fix and how to fix it. But you're expected to just set it right. So some of these things you would want to understand from them. But of course, this was much more on the funnier side. On a much serious note, I would also want to understand how do they manage their time, because these are people working across 4 to 5 cases, and and they always have all numbers, all facts, all people on the top of their mind. So how does that work? They function much faster and much better than machines. So these are top 2 or 3 things I would want to ask them. And I think getting 5 hours from a partner would be very difficult once you're in the firm. So if it happens on campus, please don't miss out on that.
I think
No, so that's what
consulting.
I'm saying. Like, we are providing that opportunity, Pratik, and
Yeah.
we are getting. This is an opportunity that we are presenting to people, that you get to attend a master class with a lady who's Seema Bansal. Who, I'm sure you know who Seema Bansal, but who's a partner at a top MBB firm, and has been doing amazing work across public and private sector, with whom they will be able to spend 5 hours over 5 days, talking to her about, what's it for a consultant, what's the journey like, and what is the career like. And, we want students to sign up for it. Anybody who's interested in consulting, they should absolutely sign up for it. Once you are prepared for that, then we will throw at you Mr. Pratik Ranjan, who will then prepare you for case interviews. How do you get into a consulting firm? And Pratik is going to help us do that with the students. So it's a very interesting combination of things that we are throwing to the students, and everyone who's attending this session, putting in time, please consider it. It's something that you can gain a lot from. Rudra, go on. You were going to say something, and then I
Yeah.
want to hear from Soham as well on this.
Yes, yes. So what I was saying is, guys, you all these like the big consultings understand the importance of how people are freshers or coming from engineering backgrounds, different diverse backgrounds, and honestly, consulting is one career that a lot of people are not very exposed to. So that's the reason you have your corporate dinners, right? Before you get
Right.
a corporate dinners, you get the opportunity to actually sit with a partner for 45 minutes to 1 hour, and please don't shy out. I remember I just went back to my Bain partner dinner, and I remember on my case I had the same partner. So he just told me the first day, "You are a very talkative girl," and I was like, "Sorry, sir, I had too many questions." And that's when I was just going to say, if you're getting this opportunity, guys, please go ahead and take it, because I remember speaking a lot and asking a lot of questions then. And yes, some of the questions which I asked was a very basic question, right? An FMCG client comes to you, they know their baby, like their product more than you, and you get a week to understand their product, and then they are listening to you. I mean, I can't understand this. How can you go and tell them about something that they know for like 20, 25 years?
Right.
He went and gave me a very beautiful example. He's like, he said that, listen, we just don't know about this industry. We take the tactics and tax from all other industry, and we make them see that, okay, you're FMCG, but listen, this is something that we applied in a supply chain case, and you can definitely pick this up. Apart from that, one question I always ask them is, you all are strategies. You're a strategist. You are the mind behind all these big companies, right? Why haven't you started something of your own? Like, you would have done so much better. Why? And there also I get an answer. We are consultants. We are good to handle anxiety in front of our clients, but we are not as risk averse as entrepreneurs are. And lastly, I want to know, I always wanted to know, I always ask these questions. So if I may ask, can you tell me your 3 mistakes of your life, if you look back in your journey? Because I'd heard this Jack Mark speech where he said that whenever you meet these leaders, don't sit and ask them about what are their success stories, okay? You can see them. Ask them what are their failures, because that's where you're going to learn from and pick that from. So when you have that session, please ask your leader this.
Not before you
All
join.
right.
Not everybody's gonna take it in good humor, but that's a great question to ask. And guys, some of you who want to understand what a B school student, forget about a consulting person, can do in their life, please go and watch Seema's video on the transformation she has done in government schools. She's done a TED talk. She's been covered globally, and if you get to learn consulting from someone like her, it's not just about doing consulting, but a lot more than excelling as an MBA student. So interacting with her, I'm definitely in for this program. Kunj, let me know how can I sign up.
You are an honorary member of Inside IIM. I can't stop you from doing anything in Inside IIM, Pratik.
Yeah.
Soham, you want to add something here?
Yeah, sure. So building on to what Rudra said, I think we both had the same, we were both sitting on almost the same table in the Bain informal dinner. And one major thing so there, I would like to address 2 things over here. One thing is, you in the formal dinner, if you get to attend one very big trap that everybody falls into is to go and ask questions for the sake of asking questions. So before
Yeah.
going there, make sure that whatever questions you ask you actually need to ask them, because they can catch bullshit very easily, because they are smarter than you, and they will do that. And the second thing I would like to address is the questions that I would like to ask. So look, at the end of the day, if you're sitting with an MBB partner, first of all, MBB firms, they differentiate themselves and they are the one of the best. Now when you're talking to a partner, inside consultants also, they have differentiated themselves and they have gone on to become the best. So you're
Right.
so it's very important for you to know that what exactly set them apart from the rest of them, because when if you are becoming a consultant, might as well become the best one. So that is one thing that I used to ask, that what are the three things that they did which set them apart from the rest and which led them to whatever wherever they are right now. The second thing, it's on the line of, because your partners, they have gone through a million cases till now, and they will have interesting stories and interesting incidents that happen throughout the case. So ask them for the three most surprising things that they found out about any client. They can be facts, they can be anything. So, and the third thing would be the fact that ask them about three stories of fun client interactions. And this is a very nice icebreaker, it worked everywhere. And they love to talk about when clients were very unreasonable or when clients were extremely friendly. So at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you take enough information from that side. At the same point of time, allow them to vent out a few funny stories, because at the end of the day, everybody over there would be looking and talking to them to get their time, but might as well get their attention.
Yeah, and just to top it up very quickly, you can also ask them, some lighter questions like, how many flights have you taken in your life? How many countries have you worked out of? Or how many nights have you stayed in a hotel? So I'll quickly give the numbers for myself. So in the last 1 odd year, I've lived out of 3 countries, some 7 cities, stayed in 5 stars for over 200 days out of 365 days, and already a titanium member on Bonvoy. So these are some other very interesting things that you can ask partners. Their numbers would be a lot higher. And I forgot to mention the number of flights I've taken in a year, which is close to 140 flights in less than a year. So, so these are some very interesting numbers you can talk about to partners as well.
And please don't consider partners as, I mean, for me at least, Bain partners were very chill. They were, whenever any person were asking something very intellectual to them, they're like, why? Listen, I want a dinner. Don't. We can talk on this later. Tell me, how do you manage to, party over here? And all of these questions they want to know. So just treat them as your, friends and
Campus seniors.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, guys, let's, go on, Indila.
Yeah, Prateek just mentioned that, the number of flights he's taken in a year.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of one of the most favorite questions that I would get at interviews, which was, how many planes are there in the sky right now? And why are case studies, prep so important for cracking a job or a placement at any consulting firm? I mean, this is just one question, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I don't understand the connection between, and why is this iconicness attached to it? Why is why does it have to be through case interviews? Why is so much reliance put on case interviews?
So I would like to take a stab at it, and I'd like to go about it. So I did actually go and ask my partners also the same question as to, after I converted the interview, of course, that why exactly did you ask me such questions? And one very small thing is that, as Prateek pointed out in the starting of the session, that consulting is more about asking the right questions rather than not only about coming to the right answer. So in case interviews, it's not about coming to a right answer, because in most case interviews there won't be any right answer. So the way a case interview tests how well can you answer, how directed your answers are, and in how many or how less steps can you go on to a reasonably sound solution. Because at the end of the day, in real life also, it's not like a maths equation which will yield one singular correct answer. There might be multiple answers, and you have to have a strong justification behind going behind that. And the best way to replicate that would be a case interview. And one more thing that I really loved about case interviews was that it doesn't test you on any one subject. So there is no singular subject or a quantum of subjects that can suddenly make you very good at case interviews. Case interviews is just about common sense, ask the right questions, think of it very logically. Look, if I had this company, if I had this problem, what would I look at first? And this normal intuitive thinking is what they're testing, and this is what sets you apart, and this is what makes you cream de la cream.
Yep, yep. If I had to just answer that in one acronym, I would say the one thing people test in consulting interviews and why they do these interviews in the first place is the idea and the concept of being MECE, which is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. So while all of us say that you're asking the right questions or not, you're working in an industry that you know or not, the one thing which people really judge you on or really try to assess is whether or not you're thinking about every possibility. So is your thinking exhaustive? And of the various things that you've thought, are they exclusive in themselves? So if your thought process in itself is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, you're welcome to consulting.
Yeah, just adding just a point to that. Also, so before you go and sit in front of a partner or a principal, there are another series of case interviews that happen over the call with your the senior associates, and that's why you're being judged on all these parameters. But when you're in front of your partner, there's one thing more you're getting judged on is your confidence. You're sitting over there not knowing anything about that industry. You don't know anything about that client. The partner is rigid. He's not going to accept what you're going to tell them. You have to be as confident, as patient, and not lose it, because at the end you're going to, that's the same thing that's going to happen with you and your clients, right? They are the ones who are going to be as furious and frustrated because they want to know the reasons. And some days you might not just say things that they want to hear. So that's what you're going to get judged. Your confidence, one. And secondly, your way you're communicating. Please don't be very aggressive. Don't go ahead and say, sir, I don't agree with you. Don't oppose the partner. Try and put things in a very subtle manner. That's if you can think, I completely agree to your point, but if I may add to something like that, right?
You can always agree to disagree, right?
Yes.
See, because a lot of times people try to put you under pressure by telling you that, this is bullshit. This is not something which works. And that is the moment where you can really hold back, because, you have to both be polite but assertive. You can't lose out on your thought, which you think is right? So if you have to talk from a framework perspective, there are three things that people look for. Number one is problem solving. How do you think? Number two is practicality and effectiveness. Because, a lot of times you end up doing a lot of templatization. I've studied 100 templates from ISB's casebook or IIM Ahmedabad's casebook or IIT Bombay's casebook. And every case, the first thing I do is I think of which template to apply. Please don't over templatize. So the first thing was problem solving. The second thing is being practical. So practicality and effectiveness. Can you be practical? Think outside framework. And the third thing, as Rudra said, is called presence in communication, which is not just about how you speak, but also about, are you assertive enough? Can you agree to disagree? Can you, kind of keep your composure while put under stress? So these three things which you can really kind of make a note of: problem solving, practicality and effectiveness, and presence in communication.
These are also the points that you get judged on when you're interning. So, when I was hearing this, I remember my manager was also telling me these 3 points that you've been judged on currently. Just adding one more to it is your, your team communication and team working spirit on the internship. But other than this, these are the points that they're looking for, and they're judging you even on your internship on that.
Yeah. So while you start working, so there are 5 parameters. As you said, team contribution is one, and the another one is client interaction or relationships. But as a person who's wanting to crack interviews, I think the top 3 would be the ones which we mentioned at the beginning. And of course, we should keep adding to that as a best practice.
Right. Guys, I wanted to ask you one thing, and this is very strange because, summer placements itself start really early. Then consulting interviews start even earlier, and case study prep starts even earlier, obviously. But when I am just joining campus, say a month ago, how am I supposed to know so many things, man? Like, how am I supposed to crack the most difficult interview, having learned the least from campus? That's what I don't understand.
Can I please take this, please?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I can completely relate to this question because I was in that fix just a few months back, being a fresher and no work experience. And I remember talking to Soham and other people who have work experience, like, listen, please first explain me what is consulting, right? I was in a position where I didn't even know that, and it's completely fine. So over here, it's just understanding what this profession is putting ahead, and you have so many peers there, right? As Soham also told you in the start, it's not any subject that is going to define your interview and how you're going to be as good in that interview. It's your basic general knowledge about, if you were made the CEO next day, how does your mind work? Do you answer the right questions? Are you doing NISI? Are you in a position that can take pressure? You can handle stress? All these are the parameters you've been judged on. And for that, I don't think you need one semester at a B school, or some days. This is something that these are some skills that you build on over the years. So as a profession, that's what I did. I spoke to a lot of peers. You have a lot of peers on campus. If not on campus, you have it on Zoom now. Please go ahead, talk to them. Please understand, why did they choose consulting? What are the skills that they clicked on? Why did they shift or not shift? What are your thoughts? Just talk to them, align to them. And if you can, take hold of people like Pratik, who are already working for so many years, and then chew your brains and listen, this is something that I have. Please tell me, what should I do? And the last thing, when there's a lot of confusion, consulting is the place for you, because you are going to get the answers for all your questions in that internship period.
Yeah.
And I
Some,
think I
yeah.
was in the exact opposite side of where Rudra came from. So I came from, so I was coding, I was doing high performance coding, and in coding, normally you should know all the basics, then you can write the code. So
Right.
I used to think that there is a particular subject. To do your job well, you need to be extremely good at it. Now, when I started doing my case studies,
So
I
I'm
realized.
sorry, can you be a little louder? Can you hold your
Yeah,
mic closer maybe?
it's fine now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
so
Great.
after the starting week or so in my case studies, I realized that, as you said, that there is now no difficulty in case solving. The difficulty is to keep it simple. So the problem is that we overcomplicate things because we have a set thing in our mind that this is how it's supposed to go. But if you just think of it logically enough and you practice enough, case solving is actually very simple. And there is one analogy that I would like to draw over here, that there are no, so people normally tell you that do case books and it should be fine. Look, nobody could play cricket properly just by watching videos on cricket on YouTube. You have to go out there, play, learn from your mistakes, and that's the only way you're going to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the one more thing that Pratik had said, right? He you know 100 of these structures and frameworks. I remember making my own frameworks. I read like 4-5 frameworks and different frameworks, and I came up and I made something that I'm comfortable with, something that I got from my expertise. Also, I got from like whatever I'd studied in my undergraduate, some marketing terminologies. I bought that on the table. Look, there's one more thing they're looking in you, right? They come in IIMs and ITs. They're looking for one diverse thing in you, that one thing that
Yeah.
differentiates you from someone else. So if you are an architect, if you are a doctor, it's fine. Get your concepts. Go ahead and tell them to them on the interview. So I'm thinking from this perspective. I'm thinking from that perspective. They are going to appreciate that, right? So it's not difficult. It's all the years that you've done. Go ahead. It's just general knowledge. It's only common thinking, and everybody likes to become a CEO. Do or don't they? Just be the CEO for that one day, and you'll do good.
All right, guys. So where do I begin this case prep thing? Like, what are the steps for it? And I may have some experience in some industry, but I don't have experience in all industries. So, how do I begin prepping for case interviews?
Perfect. Okay, so let me take this one again. Like consultants are not one archetype, and even before I answer this question, I want to burst the biggest myth related to consulting and bang on Rudra for pointing that out, which is consulting is not one archetype, right? If you're an architect, if you own a bakery, or if you're an entrepreneur who's failed in life, if you have a story which is different, if you have a spike in your CV, which might not be academic spike, it can be any spike, right? You can be a national debater, a swimmer, a basketball player, or anything, right? So if you have that spike, you can be a consultant. That's the first myth buster. And coming back to the question on where do you start your consulting prep, the number one thing you should do is, of course, you know one industry or a few industries and you don't know the others, is to just go and talk to people. B school is probably the last place where you'll find people with such high caliber from so many different industries living in one place. Right now, not living in one place, but at least being virtually at the same place, right? So probably just go and talk to people from different industries. In parallel, read some industry primers. Once you've done that, you can move to channels like those by Victor Cheng. He's literally the person who's made consulting prep much more structured for everyone one across the globe. You can refer to some of the case books that your college provides you, and the best ones to refer to would be those by ISB, followed by Ahmedabad, followed by IIT Bombay, Bangalore, and so many others. You can refer to some of those. You can probably look back to the consulting experience of some of your peers at campus and talk to them on what real consulting looks like beyond frameworks. As Rudra and a lot of others do, you can probably build your own frameworks. But remember that frameworks can only be in your back pocket for cases that you don't know. If there's a case from an industry that you know, forget about frameworks. Start being real. Start thinking on your feet and develop your framework right there. Because the biggest mistake I have seen people do in the short 1 or 2 months of prep that they do is they always try to match the given case to a framework that they know, and which is where they go wrong. So don't do that. Kind of start developing the ability to think real, and more often than not, you'll be able to crack it. And the last tip, and I know we are short on time, is start thinking binary. So of course, some of the divisions or bifurcations you can do in your mind, right? So if I had to think of certain thing like for example channels, a simple bifurcation can be online versus offline. Now, if you start with retail versus XYZ versus mom and pop stores, it will never be messy. So just to keep your thought structured, try to break things into binary, where you do not know, what the bifurcation could be. If it's something that you really know and you're aware of, go ahead and do it your way. But if you don't, think binary at every point. You will never go wrong.
Right. I just want to mention here that, and I'm addressing the audience directly here. I'm saying that, all the things that Pratik is saying here is still only the surface. He's still only skimming the surface about just how difficult and, how interesting the journey of preparing for case prep is. I want to again talk about what we are doing in the consulting festival around this. What we are doing is, we've got the partner of a top MBB firm, Seema Bansal, who's going to be doing 5 sessions of 1 hour each, talking about consulting as a career, having seen it for over 20 years and doing diverse projects. And then we've got someone like Pratik Ranjan, who's here talking about how to prepare for case interviews. So we are not just showing you the dream, we are actually showing you the road to achieve that dream. So and we are doing this through our platform called Masterclass. Typically, the price of this program is 8,200, but because I have some connections with the people who run this program, which is my friends, we are going to get a discount if you click on the link which is shared in the chat on YouTube. The combined program is worth 8,200 bucks, but we are giving it away at 5,799. Ankit has been very specific about calling it 5,799 and not 5,800 because he believes in charm pricing. So I'm saying, please go ahead and click. This is a 30% discount. This is massive. You will be sorted. If consulting is something that you are serious about, then you will be sorted. And this is a personal promise. Having interacted with Seema Bansal, having interacted with Roshni Rati, and having now interacted with Pratik Bansal, but completely recommend you guys sign up for that. It will really help. All right, we can continue now. I'm done with my little advertisement.
Just to add to Kunj's point, and before we start with the rest of you, for everyone who's there in this virtual room, I would say that prepping for cases is one of the best ways to prep for any interview, let alone just consulting. I mean, that's how I treated my placement season. For me, every case study prep and doing it real time with your peers, being open to ruthless feedback was the way I prepped for my interviews, right? So it's it's the mecca for consulting jobs, but for landing any job that you want to, for being that one candidate that the interviewers will go back and talk about and say that, that was a standout candidate in the interview across campuses and top-notch campuses, case study prep is the way to go about, right?
So even if you're going for a marketing firm and, I cracked an internship with Unilever, the longest round that they do is the second round of interviews, which is only case based, right? And
Right.
the biggest trap is a lot of marketing students never prepare for cases. So the people who actually prepare for consulting end up cracking marketing internships. So, or
Right.
whether we talk of Genman for that matter, TAS or Mahindra or so many other companies, they ask cases or guesstimates for the least in their interviews. And a small assurance that I want to give all of you who are in this session is, through Inside IIM and through my personal capacity of a mentor in the last 1.5 years, I have mentored more than 500 people in person and virtually for consulting. And I've seen people take very different route. So you might be someone from, a tier 3 engineering college believing that, no, I'm not meant for consulting. Let me prove you wrong. That's not the case. I come from a tier 2 engineering college, not from an IIT, but I still ended up being in BCG with people who were from the top IITs, probably did the best in their careers, were a 999. So you might not be from the best of the firms or the best of the colleges, but you can definitely prepare for consulting if you have access to the right resources and if you start thinking in the right way.
Yeah, I think I completely agree to Prateek, because I also, like, I'm from Mumbai University, a commerce graduate, not from SRCC. So that's also, and being a marketing graduate, I don't know any finance background. So I just want to add one more thing, right? I'm just talking to all the fellow people who are from media, who are from, fashion technology, who are from marketing background. I had a myth that, this is lot for a lot of people, lot to do with a lot of number crunching. How am I going to do it? Because, you're already put into your first semester in your B school, you're going to already feel that, okay, I don't know numbers. Okay, clearly I don't know numbers. But consulting is not just numbers, it's basic math. And I have realized this after I have done an internship. Don't fear from that you have to calculate immediately, you have to give a prominent, because when you do guesstimates, that's where you get a bit of shock. But guesstimates is also basic math if you go ahead and just look at it, right? So don't scare and don't take a back step on this, because it's easy. You can do it if you practice it in more. And one more thing, this session I think is very important, because you're going to understand the quality of cases. What people end up doing is a lot of cases. Like I know of people who've told me that I've done 100 cases and blah blah blah. It doesn't matter how many cases you do if the quality of the case matter. And last thing that I want to add is, it's coming directly from the partner. I remember an entire different scenario that was told to be me by my senior about my Bain interview, and the interview was completely different. I was asked general knowledge questions in my interview related to my case. So my case was on hospitality, pharma, and they asked me a very parallel thing happening in Kerala in the pharma industry. So if you're getting this opportunity, go ahead and see what the partners look ahead, because they're looking at a bigger picture. So only case solving is something that need to know, but other things also you need to see in. So please ask these questions to the partner whenever you get this chance.
Guys,
All right.
lot of
Yeah.
sorry,
Go on.
Kunal.
Go on. No,
Yeah.
Go on. Go on. Go on.
So much conversation around cases and stuff, right? I want to ask the three of you one question. What are the three cardinal sins for a consulting CV? Like let's also talk about CVs, because people, we are not talking about this, but people do fret a lot कि CV कैसे design करें यार for consulting jobs. So what
Soham
would you
should go on this one. Soham, why
Yeah, so
Yeah, so the first thing that you need to know is, as Pratik pointed out, that partners love to use this phrase called from 30,000 feet up. So whatever you write in your CV, uh, they don't want to know how you reach there or exact nitty gritties, because those are details that are not necessary. But what you need to tell them is how your work was impactful. So rather than say that I used this algorithm to reach there, it is much better to state it as saved this amount for the company. So effectively, what was your objective for the work? What effect did it have on the bottom line, top line, or on the organization as a whole? Be precise, be as simple as possible, because nobody understands tech terms, nobody wants to know tech terms on your CV. So be as simple as possible. So I remember in the first few drafts, and everybody will go through this. So you'll go to your seniors and you'll show your first draft and you'll think, wow, I worked for 6 hours on this CV, this is perfect. And then they will say that, look, this particular thing that you've written over here using this algorithm, this doesn't work, you don't need this, chuck this out. So you will have multiple rounds of revisions, but keep one thing in mind, that no matter what happens, you have to keep it as simple as possible so that any layman from any industry, whether you come from coding, whether you come from whether you're a doctor, your CV line should be understood by one and all, and it should give the crux as to what your job did. That is
Yep.
that is one cardinal sin that I would recommend everybody to avoid.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Rudra,
and
go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say that for me, my CV looked a lot more culturally inclined, right? From doing a lot of fashion shows, acting, all of these things. So I was in a fix, like, I mean, I don't have numbers to show. What am I going to write? Because a lot of seniors came up and told me, you have to use these turnover numbers and all of these things on your CV. And I was like, I don't have it. So what please the next thing is, don't make numbers, right? I have a friend who actually made up numbers saying that dedicated 1,000 hours and this and that. You don't need to make numbers up if you don't have it. Create a strong statement saying what you did. Please don't jump up and create any numbers. If you have been a leader or a campus ambassador, just state the impact that you've created on, or the footfall of people that came on your festival, or the budget that you took care in that cultural festival, right? So make that sound like that, right? Don't fake numbers,
Yep.
please.
Sure.
Yep. Yep.
All right, guys. I'm going to
Additional
quickly
that.
move on to questions now. We are running really behind on time.
Okay.
It's great that you guys are so chatty, but it's caused a happy problem where a lot of these audiences are going to get pissed off with me for not taking their questions. So quickly getting into questions. One of the interesting questions, and this is a constant debate with consulting, right? So Chirayu Lokhande has asked, consulting companies take credit for client success. Do they also take responsibility for clients' failure?
Oh yes, they do.
Yes.
They do. So, I mean, on the commercial side, of course, contracts are made in a fashion right now. There are a lot of it is dependent on value delivery, right? You get a portion of what you
Right.
deliver, a portion of what you actually end up creating. So there is virtue in actually, getting value to the client in terms of dollars earned, right? It's not just about, writing a thesis paper and coming back to your firm and then going to work with some other client. It's actually about making real value and real impact happen to the client. And right now, the model of consulting is no more limited to strategy. In fact, if you look at the mix of cases in any consulting firm, it's moved to implementation, right? So it's a complete hand holding the client for a long term, like let's say a year and a half, right? So we do take responsibility for both the success and failure, if any.
Okay, next question, and I think maybe the younger guys can answer this one because it's more immediate. A lot of people are worried about their low ACADS or their average ACADS. Is there no chance to get into consulting if you have low or average ACADS? Rahul and Adit and lots of people have been asking that question.
So
simple answer is no, but you guys can go ahead. The simple answer is yes, you can get into consulting with low ACADS, but you guys can elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think more than ACADS, what they look for is not one thing that you're good at. You must be good at a lot of things. So basically, it's a well-rounded CV. So I would suggest this thing: when you sit before making the CV, just ask yourself one thing: that what are the best things about yourself? What are the things that you should put on your CV? Because effectively, CV is nothing but a description of who you are. So at the end of it, if you think that ACADS is not the best part, there must be something that makes up for it. So there are many things to a person's personality. So make sure that the place that you're strong at, that is very crystal clear on your CV. So for example, I didn't come from an IIT. I didn't have a 1,500 rank in an IIT JEE exam. So the way I thought about it was that I was very active in Toastmasters. I went around and won a lot of speech competitions. So I made sure that I highlighted that along with academic performance.
Was
Kunj will kill me for wasting time, but I'll quickly add to what Soham said. The first thing people do in a B school, like you'll have a prep committee who will send you a template CV saying John Doe, and everyone in the campus wants to become John Doe. They end up wasting 2 years filling the John Doe CV and wanting to become John Doe. My one piece of advice is please don't try becoming John Doe. Be yourself. figure out what is that one thing which makes you different and kind of highlight that, build on that, and you can make it to consulting. It might not be academics.
Yeah, I
Right.
completely agree to that.
Rudra, I have a specific question for you. Krishi Rai is asking, how can a non-engineer fresher target a consulting firm?
Why can't you? You know, consultants are actually looking for freshers right now because, as I told you, they need open-minded people. They want people who can unlearn easily. And who better than freshers? Because they don't have much experience from the industry. So they don't carry that, the entire
Package.
work, the package, yeah, exactly, the package like from that industry. So freshers, first thing you can, right? A fresher can be there. And consulting is one field that it's the learning is majorly on field. Like when you are a consultant, you
Right.
learn even more. Nothing, you can't do anything to prepare yourself more before you are on the job. It's a lot on job learning, so don't worry on that. People are willing to help you on that. What else was she saying? Fresher, I have answered. Low acads, she mentioned.
Non-engineer.
Non
Non-engineer.
Wow, listen, you don't. Engineering is just a field, and diversity is something that is being picked up by all these schools as well as these consulting agencies. These firms want diverse portfolios because you know what? When I am an FMCG person and I'm coming to a Bain or a BCG, I'm going to ask and tell them that, listen, who's going to work on my case? And if they tell me, okay, 5 people from IIT Bombay, and I'm like, only engineers? That's the question that poses. They need to show that we are coming, giving you information from diverse sides. We are giving you an information from a commerce person who's done business, from a person who's a doctor, who's done fashion technology. We're giving you one-stop destination where you're going to get a lot of voices from all directions, right? So diversity is something that they are actually loving and they want them. So don't lose hopes because you can definitely crack a consulting.
All right, guys, and this is a question for Pratik. Lots of people are asking, Prasanna has been asking. Also, there are a few people who've been congratulating Rudra for having great energy. So, yes, I'm passing on that compliment to Rudra.
Thank you.
But Pratik, I wanted to ask you, Prasanna has asked this question, a lot of others have. What are the qualities, qualities or skills that are required to do a good job as a consultant?
Number one would be work planning. So kind of contemplating what is it that can come on your plate, making scenarios, understanding what could go wrong if things turn out the way you want them to, what should be a logical next step, right? The second, again, if I had to talk from a framework perspective, there are 5 things. Number one, problem solving, practicality and effectiveness, presence and communication, teaming, and client relationship management. But from a more skill perspective, I think you should be able to plan your work really well, right? Which means whom are you going to talk to for what information? What is the information that you need in the first place? What is the analysis that you're going to do? And after all this, the overarching skill that is required is storylining, right? So you can have the data, you can have the analysis, you can have the insight, but how are you going to move the insight to action? How are you going to move the insight into a story that is so compelling that the person who's been in that industry for 30 years, 40 years will believe you for a person who's just spent 40 days or less than that in that industry, right? So I think storylining and storytelling is also a very, very important skill. Again, this is like a very small teaser of the number of skills that you can have as a consultant, but I was just kind of prioritizing and doing a Pareto and telling you 20% of the skills required. There's a lot more that you can learn as a consultant.
Just to add one thing, I know this might take time, but I need to add this.
Go on.
Also, your mental health is something that I want to focus on, right? Don't just because consulting looks really good for you and it is a very good and appealing industry and a place to work for. There's one thing that's like, it pushes you a lot, it pushes you to sacrifice a lot on your mental health also. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of pressure that you have to go through it. Some people can take it very well and some people can't. Please don't push yourself to that extent that you lose, the charm of life, right? It's just another job. Don't push yourself so much. So if you have the trait where you can balance your head very well, if you can get out of anxiety, you can switch out of from your work mode to your party mode easily and not carry the baggage, please go ahead and do consulting. But if you are a person who needs like a good 2-3 hours of me time and self-care, consulting will not give you that so much, right?
Actually not. I mean, as an intern, that's perfectly how it should be because you have 2 months to do all that you have. But if you look at it as a career option, there is much more than industry that because the only asset this company has is their people. So they track every hour that you spend. They make sure that you don't work on weekends. Of course, there would be fire and there would be work sometimes that you'll have to do. But let's compare a consultant's life versus someone working in sales in an FMCG company. I can
Yeah.
assure you that it's much more balanced here, right? Your
Yes.
client can give you pain, but from the company's perspective, there are enough checks and balances to make sure that you pursue your passion, right? So
Yes.
I mean of course we can talk about that in detail. Anyone who's interested can connect with some of us offline and we can discuss that. But do not think of consulting as something that is going to take away your life from. It is just going
Yeah.
to add many colors to your life, and it does not mean sacrificing on your life at all.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Last couple of questions. One is from Varun, and this is for Soham. I think he's asking that a lot of engineers come with a decent amount of work ex, whether in IT or in ops or supply chain or a variety of other roles. Is it he has this feeling that they have a lesser of a chance to make it to a consulting shortlist? Can you help him clarify that?
No, not at all. I think I'll disagree completely with this. Because look, it depends on case to case how your CV is. Your experience will never be something that holds you back. If not anything, it will help you in your shortlisting process. So, for example, when after once we got selected into Bain, we got a particular letter saying that why they selected you effectively, and it
Right.
had 3 points, and out of that, two were from my work experience. So it depends from case to case, but your work experience, if it has been fruitful, it will be very helpful. Second point, and this is on a very personal level, this is what I felt, that after having a work experience, once you enter into a firm, whether be it an internship or in a full-time job as a full-time consultant, the amount of perspective you have about the corporate life, it will hold you in very good state. Because at least in this particular internship, when it was completely over virtual and I had to do the entire thing over Zoom, the fact that I had some experience beforehand, I knew how the corporate world worked, it helped me a lot. And it's always good to have extra experience. It's never bad to have extra experience in both life and career.
I would like to add
Right.
to what Soham mentioned and sort of circle back to what Rudra and Pratik had also mentioned earlier. A lot of
Sure.
people are asking about the CV and ye karenge to it will we be selected, etc., etc., etc. You do you. Whenever you are building your CV or building your story, ask yourself the question: so what, so what, so what? If you did something, what was the so what? What after you answer the second so what was the third so what, and what was the fourth so what, right? For someone it could be academics, for someone it could be work ex, for someone it could be some spectacular co-curriculars that they have done, right? And again,
Right.
it's not just for consulting, it's for your entire MBA stint and going forward as well. As long as you do you and you do you well, you will be a standout candidate across campuses, right? So always remember that, guys.
Bang on.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Rudra, I want to ask you this question because you were honest enough to bring in the whole paisa wala angle. A lot of people, and it's absolutely fair that some people have that as one of the priorities. I think most people do, most don't talk about it. Uh, Between finance and consulting, how do you choose then? Because both of them satisfy that need, which is that you'll be one of the top paying guys from campus. But then, if that is what I'm thinking, how should I choose between finance and consulting?
Yeah, right. So there is one thing that you are, you want to go ahead and, be successful, but there's other thing that you don't want to get eaten in your job, right? You want to do something that you're going to love doing, right? You have to go to that office every day. You have to sit and work over there for so many hours. So first thing is first, for me, I knew finance was not my cup of tea because I didn't like it. I knew that consulting is going to give me a lot of perspective ahead and I will like it. And there are going to be different industries that I'm going to go ahead. There are different roles that I'm going to be part of. But I knew for a fact that finance is something that I don't, because then comes your skill
Right.
set, right? So you start drawing a parallel, okay, that This internship is, or a job is not going to be, the end of the world, right? It's somewhere you're going to enter an industry, you're going to enter a corporate life. You better enter at a place that you want to be in, right? Where you see 20 years down the line. And that's the reason when major of your partner dinners and everything are going to land up to this question, where do you see after yourself after 5 years? Okay. So for me, I knew I didn't want to do finance because first thing, I never saw myself, getting into that industry because I didn't like much the offer, the roles that it were offering me. Second thing, my skills. I knew I was a creative thinker. I knew I want to do something which could add value in sense of problem solving. I wanted to do something where I could interact more to people, etc., etc. So that's when, and then I can also earn money. So that's where I chose consulting.
Yeah.
All
Can
right.
I add to that, Kunj?
Yeah, go on. Please.
Yeah. So see, a lot of times, do you guys remember how all of us wanted to be pilots and astronauts when we were 5-year-old? Right? Similarly, a lot of us believe that we want to do finance at this point. We end up in companies like JPMC and so many others, and then we realize that this is not my cup of tea. And then the only options you have available before you are other finance companies, right? Probably diluted brands. But as a consultant, if you come and you realize that this is not the industry I want to be, you can immediately switch to another industry within the consulting company itself, or move out to a different industry in the outside world. We're all 20 something, and we do not, very frankly, some of our understanding of ourselves would be wrong. We might believe we are best at marketing, right? So I interned with Unilever. I cracked the PPO, which is like a once in 6-year opportunity for someone in IIM Lucknow. Like, this was the first PPO in 6 years. Shubham, can you please go on mute? Yeah. So this was like a once in 6-year opportunity in IIM Lucknow. And, I ended up not accepting that PPO and came to consulting primarily because I was not sure if I would love marketing in the longer run. And if I do, I can always go back.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think, guys, we will have to end this now. But I just want to say again that, really appreciate you guys doing this for us. Consulting is a very sought after career. I'm sorry to some of the audiences whose questions I've not been able to take, but I've tried to sum it up and answer as many questions. The ones that were most popular were the ones that we've asked. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this. I want to remind the audience again that this is a very unique chance that you guys are getting. It's not usual. You can ask Rudra and Soham as well if they've gotten a chance to spend 5 hours with a partner yet. This is a unique chance that you guys are getting, and also we are getting you Pratik Ranjan to train you with case interviews as well. So absolutely do sign up for the consulting festival with Inside IIM on the masterclass series. You getting a 30% discount because you've come and visited us and shown your commitment to consulting as a career by sitting through the last 1 hour, a little bit over 1 hour with us. So please click on the link that is there in the description. Go through what's on offer. There is an entire course structure that has been put together by Seema Bansal. So you can have a look at that. You can have a look at the kind of work Pratik has done himself. And if you think it's worth it, then we are giving you a 30% discount. So please sign up for that. And we promise you that you're going to have a great experience. We've done a finance festival with people from Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch in the past, and people have gone really happy with it. If we go by anything that Rudra and Soham and Pratik have been saying, consulting seems to be even more exciting, at least for them it is. So do sign up. I think you guys will have a great time. With that, I'll end this. Thank you so much, guys, for doing this. I love the energy that you guys brought to the discussion. Somewhere it makes sense that you guys have made it to the most coveted jobs on your respective campuses at different points of time. I can see that kind of energy, that drive, that kind of polish in how you guys have answered these questions. I also see a lot of preparation. So admire that about you guys. You guys are doing it for the community. You guys are doing it for free, and it requires very good professionals to bring in excellence for a thing that they're not making money off, or it's not going to help them in some massive thing in their future. So appreciate that. And with that, I would also want to appreciate Oindala for joining us again and bringing in her unique perspective and her energy to the discussion. Yes, absolutely. You're doing it for free. In the end, just one thing, Yobo Live. Why is it called Yobo Live? It's called You Only Be School Once. It's about a book that Oindela and I wrote together. Oindela has done beautiful illustrations in that book. It's about how to make the best of your 2 years in a B school. We've written that book. It's a labor of love. It's available on Inside IIM. Do check it out. Anybody who's joining a B school this year, it's going to be great. And one last thing, sorry, we just do a lot of things, so I have to talk about it. We do something called Conversations Cafe, where students get to meet recruiters before they even enter campus. We are doing the first Conversations Cafe of this year with Aditya Birla Group this weekend. Next weekend, we are doing it with Nestle. You get to meet the recruiting team and superstars performers in those companies from your campuses, your future seniors. Do sign up for that. This one is free. There's no discount required for that. You just need to sign up and ask smart questions, and you'll make it to this exclusive webinar where you can get onto the hot list of Aditya Birla Group, of Nestle, and a lot of other companies that are coming up in the future. With that, I'm going to end this. Thank you so much, guys. Again, hope to see you again next Thursday.
For everyone who's still there on this session might get over like virtually, but all of us are open to questions. You can ask us questions offline. I'm sure Soham and Rudra would echo me on that. Please get back to us if you have any questions, career related, consulting related, or in general. We would be more than happy to take it and make the most of this community. There are articles and there are people in this community that you have no idea about. Go there, explore it, and all the best, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
Everyone.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.